Lobries and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lobry in Gentleland, just when you thought the dark spot and distraught of May 3rd, 2024 should be stopped and couldn't be topped, the hopscotch henchman, the bell-bottom bone-crushing Canadian casket carver King Kung Fu Kenny concocted another one from the stock, and this wasn't just any random shell in the clip. It was the unifier, the soul-snatching supplier, while simultaneously being the hit. Kendrick started the battle warning Lobry he's really like that, and by not like us, he tranquilized Lobry in the cold like a nightcap. So let's take it right back to the day and the night that was the light that helped ignite that victory lap. First, hit the like and subscribe with a little light tap. Now, Lobries and Gentlegrams, here we are a year later from the moment that wouldn't just help Kendrick Lamar win a rap battle, but it was with one single song that Kendrick was able to unite his entire city, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for local businesses within his community, putting on historic events, showcasing Los Angeles talent in ways we've never seen before, sparking a renaissance within the standard in which hip-hop artists are expected to create at a higher level. According to the mid-tier rappers and the Big Mac media personalities like Akademiks, this was the song that killed hip-hop, because again, raising the bar, Kendrick showed the world how far hip-hop can truly go. This was a victory lap that still hasn't stopped at the recording of this video 365 days later. And you might be thinking to yourself, if you haven't been truly keeping up, or if you're simply an OV-ho. In either of those cases, you're probably thinking to yourself, how did a song about being a PDF go on to break so many boundaries? A PDF anthem won a bunch of Grammys, won the Super Bowl halftime show. It even won itself a lawsuit from La Brianna, the Marilyn Monroe V-Ho. It's about being a PDF. Why is the West Coast uniting over PDFs? Well, my friends, if you're watching this video and you're concerned with the biggest moment potentially in hip-hop history, then consider yourself lucky, because we are going to go through why Not Like Us is so much more than simply a PDF anthem. In fact, that is barely the basis of what this song is. That is simply the surface. We are going to go through the song, the cover art, the music video that accompanied it, all of the performances that stemmed from the energy of this record. We will break down how Kendrick is still performing the song on tour and how he is adding visuals to emphasize the messaging behind this record. And of course, we'll look at this from a bird's eye view in terms of why it was so smart that Kendrick left this song for last. Why this was the last laugh that left Lobry's craft a blast in the past. Now, I don't want to focus much on La Brianna within this video, but one thing you guys have to realize very carefully, which is something I said at the beginning of the inception of the Rapaholics channel, which is that Drake most definitely does not want to go to war with Kendrick. And not because Kendrick is a much better MC than Drake, which is very true to this day. And I hate the fact, I hate it with every bone in my body, that people are trying to concoct the narrative right now that Family Matters was lyrically superior to anything Kendrick Lamar dropped throughout this battle. Kendrick could literally fart in the toilet and that would be more lyrically superior to anything Drake has ever written. And I like Drake, alright? I am a Canadian. When I was in the 7th or 6th grade, best I ever had was the soundtrack to my life, crushing over 12-year-old girls when I was 12 years old. Now, it's ironic that I'm now, 28, listening to a song that Lobry is suing over because he believes it's accusing him of crushing over girls who might be the same age that I was when I first heard Lobry's music. I'm just kidding, Drake is not a PDF. But let me backtrack here, alright? Initially, I had said Kendrick Lamar is not the one Drake wants to go to war with, because you could see by the first move Kendrick made in this battle, right? Being a feature on a massive hit like that. Forget Kendrick's verse alone. When Metro Boomin and Future first previewed that song, long before the album ever came out, you could tell by the beat, you could tell by the hook, you could tell by everything about the sound of that song that that was going to be a bona fide hit. The fact that Kendrick chose that record to hop on, to make this declarative statement, to be like, hey, I want war with both of you guys. You guys think you are the biggest in the game? Nah, let me reclaim that name. The fact that he chose that song proves not only that Kendrick was extremely strategic in terms of the timing of the release when Drake and J. Cole had just left their tour, not because of the fact that it caught them both when their guards were down, but he knew exactly what he was doing in terms of that would be a massive hit that they could not ignore, right? Pusha T, when he first dissed Drake, it was on a random song off his album that only sold around 70,000 in the first week, right? Drake could have ignored that, and the mainstream world, the world that Drake caters to the most, would have never even realized that Drake was ducking the smoke from a superior rapper. With Meek Mill as well, right? Meek Mill had a way smaller audience than Drake, and he was just rambling about Drake on Twitter. Drake could have ignored that. This was way different. Kendrick chose a hit record, and that's the one big difference between anyone else Drake has ever battled, in that Kendrick Lamar knows how to make a hit, and not just any hit. He puts lyricism and hip-hop and strong messaging at the forefront of every single hit song he has. Look at songs like Humble, Mad City, B Don't Kill My Vibe, King Kunta, Swimming Pools, Money Trees. Like, these are all culturally impactful global hits that resonate with the entire world, but also spread an extremely important and positive message. Kendrick knows how to convey strong messaging within his music, but he also knows how to do it in the form of a hit record. And that was the biggest threat that Drake had within this entire battle. That's why I've been saying since the start of this channel, since the first video you may have ever watched off of Rapaholics, that Drake had everything to lose and nothing to gain by this battle. Not because Kendrick could have dropped 17 Euphorias upon Drake's head top. Not because on 616 in LA, Kendrick was rapping from Drake's perspective, incorporating this intricate wordplay, or even rapping to Drake's entire family on a song like Meet the Grams. All of that is irrelevant if Drake could beat him in the hit category, because look at the behavior Drake presented throughout this entire battle, right? He was on Twitter. Look at 616 in LA, the messaging on there. Kendrick saying, your little memes are losing steam. They figured you out. Stop playing nerdy on Twitter. That's not how you're going to win the general public over. Drake's whole concern, because he knew at this point Kendrick was the second biggest rapper in the game from a mainstream perspective under Drake, right? That's why he wanted Kendrick on first person shooter to celebrate the big three and make it collaboration over competition. Drake knew that Kendrick was, again, the second biggest rapper in the game from a sales perspective. It didn't matter if he got barred to death. What mattered was, for Lobry's ego, is that he came out with the biggest hit from this battle. And that's what he thought Family Matters would be. And boy, did he make the most disgustingly miscalculated mistake of his life by releasing that on the night of May the 3rd. Now, again, I told you guys, we're going to take this all the way back to the night before Not Like Us dropped and reflect on how that became such an impactful cultural moment, which then transcended into a massive global moment for hip-hop that led Kendrick to go on the victory lap that he is still on to this day, 365 days later. Now, I know some of you guys are probably tired of this beef. Meanwhile, the other half of the people watching are probably like, more Kendrick videos, please. I just want to say as a PSA, like, I love anyone who's watching this channel, but I do want to be talking about hip-hop as a whole, because I do feel like, let's be honest, right? 2025, aside from seeing the run that Kendrick is going on, like this whole victory lap with the GNX tour, aside from that, like from a music perspective, a new release perspective, this year has kind of been very slow, right? We saw Mac Miller release that beautiful posthumous album, The Lunarism. We saw 2 Chainz and Larry June and Alchemist team up for an album. The Weeknd had a phenomenal project. Carti had a big mainstream moment, but honestly, 2025 has been very slow. So I really do, after this beef, after this final 1-year anniversary video reflecting on the massive victory lap that Kendrick took, I do want to take things on this channel in a bit of a different direction, where we touch on some different artists and some other exciting things that are going on for the future of hip-hop. So on a side note, drop a comment on other topics or artists you'd like to hear about. I'll also be starting a second channel discussing a bunch of TV shows that I love, that I've been watching for years: Sopranos, South Park, Breaking Bad, Family Guy, 2.5 Men. So drop a comment if you'd be interested in that type of content, and let's carry on here. So we have to start with the night before Not Like Us was released, right? That was possibly the biggest moment in hip-hop history, or at least of this generation. We've never seen in the history of mainstream battle rap 2 of the biggest titans in hip-hop going face to face, but not just releasing one diss track after another. No, releasing multiple diss tracks at a time. Think about Jay-Z and Nas. Even think of Drake's beefs in the current era, right? Him and Meek Mill, him and Pusha T. We have never seen 2 of the biggest titans in hip-hop release multiple diss tracks one after another in the span of like 4 days. And it's crazy because everyone put Kendrick on this massive time clock after Drake released Push-Ups and Taylor Made. They were acting like he was ducking the smoke, right? Because he took 17 days to drop Euphoria. After that, it was all over. And what's so beautiful about the sequence of releases that Kendrick had in that 1 week of April 30th to May the 4th, 2024, is that each of these tracks flow like a full-on project that has an actual thematic element to it. You started off with the warning shot of Euphoria, where Kendrick is carefully dissecting Drake's character, his next move, what he predicts Drake will do, where Kendrick can take this if Drake wants to take it further, but ending the track saying, if you take it there, I'm taking it further. That's something you do not want to do. Warning Drake that this is a friendly fade at this point, but it could get escalated a lot further. And everyone debating at this point that, the West Coast, again, I'm a Canadian saying this, but all the OV hosts saying that, the West Coast took this greater than thou approach, saying that, Drake took it too far with the Tupac AI vocals. That was too disrespectful. So that was when Kendrick took things further. No, Kendrick still was very respectful on Euphoria, which was released after Taylor Made. All he was saying was that Drake made an extremely miscalculated and disrespectful move by using Tupac's vocals without his estate's permission to concoct this message or narrative that Tupac would approach this beef from a combative perspective, antagonizing either side. If you can't see why this was disrespectful, because again, if you guys haven't been on Twitter reading the conspiracy theories from the OVHOs, they're basically trying to say that Kendrick took this holier than thou approach, acting like Drake took things too far with Taylor Made because he used Tupac's voice to spread this false message, but then saying it's hypocritical because, he was falsely accusing Drake of being a PDF on Not Like Us, which is even worse than using Tupac's vocals. There's two reasons why that argument is heavily flawed. Firstly, there's nowhere where Kendrick said that was taking it too far. He just said that was an extremely distasteful, disrespectful move where you showed blatant disregard for Tupac's estate, everything he stood for, by blatantly trying to misrepresent his messaging, right? Because Kendrick has used Tupac vocals in the past, but he did so to spread the message of how to push the culture forward, how to break generational cycles of oppression, how to use your voice and your power to lead people in a positive direction. Look at songs like Mortal Man, right? Drake took a complete opposite approach on Taylor Made, where he simply used Tupac's vocals and pretended to rap from his perspective to stir up controversy. That was a disrespectful move. That didn't necessarily personally insult Kendrick to the point where he said, okay, this is where you cross the line. This is the line officially, and now I'm going to take things too far. Again, Euphoria was released after Taylor Made. That's the second reason why that argument is extremely flawed, because Kendrick still didn't take it further at that point. It was only at Family Matters where Drake made heinous allegations against Kendrick with no proof, allegations that could destroy the entire tie of his family unit, and he did so all for the sake of winning over public opinion and discourse. And that was the point where Kendrick took it further. It wasn't Taylor Made. Taylor Made on its own independently united the West Coast because they realized, okay, this guy who has been cosplaying as an individual deeply rooted within our culture, and when I say our culture, I don't mean my culture. I'm, again, a white Canadian just like Labrie, and I'm very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to break down these bars for you guys. But when I say Not Like Us, or when I say our culture, I'm talking from what I believe to be Kendrick's perspective. Again, also, I'm just here interpreting these bars. If you're not here for Ricch's, you could leave, and nothing here should be taken at 100% actual basis. This is all a white Canadian who loves hip-hop, who's very excited in his basement to be breaking down bars after years of seeing Aubriana pacify the culture that I've been growing up on since I was a kid. But so again, from my perspective, Taylor Made wasn't necessarily the trigger that made Kendrick say, all right, now let me go deep into your family history, your past life, all your vices, take it all the way across the line, throw every heinous allegation I could against you. Taylor Made was simply the disgustingly miscalculated move that made the overall culture realize Drake is quote unquote not like us. Taylor Made Freestyle wasn't just another diss, it was a psychological misstep that revealed a deeper truth about Drake's place in hip-hop. By using AI-generated vocals of legends like Tupac and Snoop Dogg, specifically to attack Kendrick Lamar, Drake crossed an unspoken boundary. These voices aren't just sounds, they're cultural memories, right? Tied to struggle, community, authenticity. To manipulate them artificially to tear down someone who is from that same lineage felt hollow, opportunistic. It felt detached from the emotional reality of the culture. Kendrick embodies everything that Tupac and Snoop Dogg represent, right? And everything hip-hop represents. At its root, it's about lived experience, pain, resilience, resistance, community uplift. He came from Compton, navigated trauma, and turned it into transformative art. Drake, in contrast, has obviously always had a curated image, right? Canadian child actor, suburban upbringing. He has his own respective talent and contribution to the culture, but he's not forged in the same fire. He moves through hip-hop, but not of it. His identity is shaped by performance, not by the stakes that shaped so many of the greats. Tailor Made was meant to attack, but instead, it exposed the artificiality of Drake's connection to the culture. It showed that he doesn't feel the weight of the voices that he used. That's why the West Coast rejected it so hard. It felt like theft, an outsider using icons not to honor, but instead to manipulate the outcome of this battle and Drake's public perception. And that's why Kendrick's Not Like Us was the counterpunch and the catalyst. Not just lyrically, it became a communal chant, a reminder, a boundary being drawn, not out of hate, but protection, of values, of history, of identity. The culture united not just around Kendrick, but around the idea that hip-hop cannot be faked. Drake, by pushing too far, simply reminded everyone of that. And you'll see that as we break down the bars of Not Like Us further, but I say all that to say, that was not the moment that Kendrick specifically took things too far. That was the moment that hip-hop woke up as a whole to the antics that Drake has been using for so long. It was only once Kendrick's direct family members were mentioned on Family Matters that Kendrick took things to another level. And I'm not sure if I'll do a full breakdown of Family Matters or Meet the Grams. I guess drop a comment if you would want that. But obviously you guys know the chess move that was played, right? Like I said, all of Kendrick's diss tracks moved together sequentially like a thematic project. You had Euphoria, which was the warning shot telling Drake not to take things further. He did with Family Matters. He got Meet the Grams 30 minutes later. On Family Matters, which people try to say right now is lyrically superior to anything Kendrick released throughout the battle. Honestly, I don't feel like even doing a piece on Family Matters and why that narrative is false, because I feel like a lot of people who are in much better positions to actually break that down have already done so. You guys can check out Curtis King, who is a rapper himself, who did a great job at breaking down how Family Matters had a very simplistic rhyme scheme literally repeated throughout the entire track. I mean, you guys can decipher the freaking intros of my videos and see how when you start using multi-syllable rhyme schemes within your bars, you can take your listeners' ears to Mars. And why I say that is, I don't think Family Matters is even the best representation of how far Drake's own pen can go. Unless you're looking at the second verse, which again, was kind of from a messaging perspective a complete waste to me because he was focusing on all these side characters, right? Rick Ross, A$AP Rocky, The Weeknd, whoever. He wasn't focusing directly on Kendrick, but that was the actual best display of rhyme schemes, flow, punchlines, and jabs that Drake actually had throughout the entire battle. I actually love that second verse in Family Matters. It's the first and third that actually focus on Kendrick, and I don't feel like anything he said there was poignant enough, powerful enough, resonated enough where even if Kendrick didn't release Meet the Grams 30 minutes later, it wouldn't have stuck as enough of a powerful jab to Kendrick's character. Mainly because of the fact that a lot of the accusations Drake had against Kendrick in those two verses had no validity to them, right? The whole time Drake is talking about you're digging for dirt, should be digging for proof. Where was any of the proof of any of the allegations Drake made? But again, that is where he took things further, right? The first half felt more like a diss track towards Kendrick's fiance or partner Whitney than it did towards Kendrick, right? He's talking about bend it over, hands on your knees, shake your butt for me, then shake your butt for Dave Free. The whole time, again, Curtis King in his video pointed this out, he's using the same exact rhyme scheme throughout the entirety of the whole first part of Family Matters. Everything rhymes with Dave Free. Do you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm kind of freestyling this part of the video. Let me try to rhyme every next line I say with the word Dave Free. Instead of hate speech, Drake and Kendrick could have made peace, but Drake chose to spill fake tea about Kendrick's manager Dave Free, claiming that he had a baby with Kendrick's main squeeze, Whitney. See how simple that was? I'm sitting here in my basement. That took me maybe 20 seconds, right? So Drake should have came a lot stronger on that first part of the song. And if that was really true, if what he was saying there had actual validity to it, then drop a second song where you actually prove all this stuff, right? Because Drake tried to take Pusha T's approach, where Pusha T exposed Drake for having a kid he was hiding from the entire world. Drake said, all right, let me take that same angle, use it against Kendrick to say, oh, you've been abusing your wife. Your wife cheated on you with your manager, and now they have a kid that you're raising. And then the third part of that song, obviously having the bar that ages the best, where he rapped, Kendrick just opened his mouth, so I'm gonna go hand him a Grammy right now. And that was my biggest problem with that third part of the song, is that some of the bars he was saying there actually had some respective angles to them, but the delivery that he had, to me, was insufferable. I hate that high-pitched, squeaky, repetitive flow where he's going, like, that's how he sounds to me throughout the entire track. I do like the whole Michael Jackson flip, though, where he's talking about how Kendrick wanted Jermaine to stay out of the light. Maybe that's my bias. Like, Cole's my guy. I don't even care that he apologized. I think he should just live in peace, try to pursue his own greatness in his own lane. You guys can argue about that in the comments, but I would much rather see Cole and Kendrick collaborate than go back and forth. Maybe I think that from a biased perspective, because 7 Minute Drill was such a horrible diss track, that I'd rather see them give us another Temptation rather than going back and forth on diss tracks. I don't know. My whole point is that Kendrick basically nuked the entire momentum that this song had by dropping Meet the Grams 30 minutes later. And for everyone saying Family Matters was lyrically superior than Meet the Grams, I don't think you understand the approach that Kendrick was trying to take with Meet the Grams. He was trying to concoct carefully drafted letters to every single one of Drake's key family members and Drake himself to dissect their character. It wasn't supposed to be a heavily layered, multi-punchline psychological breakdown of Drake's character. This was really supposed to dig in to the greatest flaws within how Drake the human acts, how Drake the rapper acts, how he treats his son, why his mother and father raised a horrible person from Kendrick's perspective. If you wanted better punchlines in Family Matters, then look no further than Euphoria, alright? There's a reason why Drake fans who are not true fans of hip-hop rank Family Matters in terms of lyricism higher than Euphoria, because they do not understand the multi-layered messaging within the majority of the bars off of Euphoria. Got a Benjamin and a Jackson in my house like I'm Joe okay. His daddy a killer, he wanna be Junior, they must have forgot the stuff that they done. Dementia must run in their family, but let it get shaky, I park his son. Y&W Melly Bar. I'm not gonna spend time on Euphoria because I have a whole 1 hour and a half breakdown of a 6-minute song of that specific record. So you guys can check that out on the channel. And needless to say, if a 6-minute song deserves a 1.5 hour breakdown, I think it would be hard to match in terms of lyrical superiority. But again, Meet the Grams, that was not the purpose of that record. Instead, Kendrick here was trying to set a tone, right? That the famous actor we once knew was looking paranoid and now spiraling. He was trying to emphasize to the world every single reason why Drake was a horribly flawed, spiraling, immoral individual. And that's the exact mission that Meet the Grams accomplished. Again, I'm not going to go into it bar by bar. Maybe if you guys want a breakdown of that, drop a comment. But I'm saying all this to emphasize the tone and the vibe of where we were at on the night of May the 3rd. That was a very heavy night for anyone who was a fan of hip-hop. You just watched two of the biggest figures in the game on the darkest production they could possibly choose viciously attack each other's character in the most vile ways they possibly could. At the end of the night, whatever perspective you believed, you were left with the information, according to Drake, that Kendrick was an abuser, cheater, someone who doesn't go back and uplift his community, a fake activist, someone whose own partner is cheating on him with his manager, someone who on his previous album, Mr. Morale, spoke on a bunch of different issues raising his own child. Now you're seeing from Drake's perspective that possibly this wasn't even actually Kendrick's actual child. And if you're looking at it from Kendrick's perspective, well, Meet the Grams told you that Drake has alcohol problems, gambling problems, abusing women problems. He takes advantage of his father. He's not there to raise his son. His mother raised a horrible individual. Oh, and who could forget, he's hiding a second child. He has a daughter. So you could understand where we were after that Friday night of May the 3rd, right? A very heavy night, no matter who your favorite artist was. If you were a fan of hip-hop, in my opinion, you almost kind of felt cheated that night, right? Because both of them threw out horrible allegations against one another with no actual proof to validate their claims. To me, at that point in the beef, it kind of felt like it turned into a TMZ-style gossip column where both of them were trying to dig up as much dirt on one another to win over public perception. I do love the way that Kendrick unprecedentedly concocted this song structure where he's rapping to each one of Drake's family members. I think that was extremely creative, but in terms of sentiment overall, it was extremely dark, extremely heavy. You didn't feel good after the night of May 3rd. Everything was very dark. The story of Adin was very dark, but we saw Pusha T pulling at that time an unprecedented move of exposing Drake for having a kid he was hiding from the entire world. That story was dark, but it was enthralling, right? And then Drake's beef before that, back to back, we saw him releasing a very catchy, dancey, quotable hit record in back-to-back. With Meet the Grams and Family Matters, you weren't felt feeling a state of euphoria, no pun intended. You weren't felt feeling happy at all. If this is how the beef ended, in my opinion, I think it would have went down as a very sad moment in hip-hop. Of course, the chess move of dropping Meet the Grams only 30 minutes after Family Matters was extremely polarizing, extremely fun for the audience to go back and forth from these two massive records and see who brought their best foot forward. But in the long run, the subject matter of both these records would have felt the audience feeling very unsettled. And that's why the strategy of Not Like Us was so powerful, because less than 24 hours later, Kendrick came back with the one attack that Drake should have feared the absolute most. The one that really, I'm surprised to this day, he had never calculated. What did Kendrick say? I love when you count me out. Like, how did you count Kendrick out of delivering the biggest hit record of this beef? He's as good at making hit records when he wants to as Drake is. The only difference between Drake hits and Kendrick hits is that Kendrick hits will always be extremely culturally centered, rooted, and uplifting, right? Look at All Right, Money Trees, Mad City. How did you doubt for 1 second that Kendrick was going to come back with his own version of a back-to-back, but do it on a 10 times larger scale? This is what I was talking about from the beginning of this battle. Kendrick always had it in him to not only lyrically destroy Drake, but come up with a bigger hit than Drake could, or at least something that could resonate with the culture on a much stronger level. And that's exactly what Not Like Us did. Not only did it attack Drake's personal character, but it also showed the world how he is literally, like the title suggests, quote unquote, not like us. Months after the song was released, Kendrick actually did an interview where, ironically, it was SZA interviewing him for the magazine outlet Harper Bazaar, where she asked him to explain the deeper meaning behind Not Like Us. And this is exactly what Kendrick had to say the phrase Not Like Us actually embodied. He said, "Not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent. Now, if you identify with the man that I represent, this man has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, he's not pandering, he's a man who can recognize his mistakes and not be afraid to share the mistakes and can dig deep into fear-based ideologies or experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. If I'm thinking of Not Like Us, I'm thinking of me and whoever identifies with that." So as you can see, Not Like Us was Kendrick drawing the line in the sand between what Drake stood for, what he represented, all his 15 years of being dominant within mainstream hip-hop versus the character, the cultural upbringing, and the morals and values that Kendrick himself inherited. So whenever someone tells you that Not Like Us was simply a PDF file anthem, you can quote Kendrick's direct explanation of the song, and once we dive into these lyrics, you will see this is a lot more than him simply calling Drake a PDF. I like how Glasses Malone put it. He tweeted out today on the 1 year anniversary of Not Like Us. 1 year ago today, a revolution was led to reclaim hip-hop. Street urban culture had been maliciously colonized for over a decade. The genre had been under a tyrannical rule until one man had the heart to fight back. Happy Hip-Hop Independence Day. And you might think that's a little extreme, that's pushing the line, but really, in my opinion, that's what this was, right? Think about the last time we saw a hit of that magnitude be specifically bar-focused, specifically rooted in cultural issues. Kendrick literally giving us a history lesson on the third verse of that record about the slave trade within Atlanta. Everything about that record, from the production to the punchlines to the jabs to the fact that it was 3 verses. I mean, think about the fact that for the last 8 years, most hip-hop hits or hits in general within the mainstream have only been 2 verses. Every song has been shrunk down now to 2.5 minutes to pander to the small attention spans that this generation of TikTok heads have. Not Like Us is 3 full verses. It's entertaining throughout. It draws a line in the sand and brings the audience back to the core values of hip-hop culture, what most rappers have stood for since the beginning of hip-hop's inception. You want some perspective here? The last #1 hit that was a hip-hop record before Not Like Us was Jack Harlow's song Lovin' On Me, or Doja Cat's Paint the Town Red, or Kanye West's Carnival, or ironically Drake and J. Cole's First Person Shooter. So I think you get what I mean, and now is probably the moment you guys have been waiting for, the breakdown of the bars. But before we even get into the bars, like I've done with the other 1 year anniversary breakdowns of all these Kendrick disses, we first got to touch on the cover art, because there's a message to everything. It's not just within the music, right? So the cover art to Not Like Us obviously famously displays a satellite image of Drake's Toronto mansion. and it's overlaid with red markers resembling those used to denote registered S offenders. This imagery serves as a visual extension of the song's accusations, portraying Drake, allegedly or possibly someone else, as a certified PDF and suggesting he should be quote-unquote placed on neighborhood watch. Now, because of how iconic this song became, in Drake's UMG defamation lawsuit, he specifically targets the cover art of the song, stating that the artwork was intended to falsely portray him as a PDF and incite public hostility, even going as far as to say that the imagery in the cover art led to real-world consequences, including multiple intrusions at his home and an attack with a firearm that injured his security guard. Now, that incident was obviously horrible, but it's just crazy to me that the lawsuit emphasizes that the cover art specifically was not merely provocative, but literally a deliberate attack of defamation that endangered Drake's safety and reputation. Drake was literally telling the world that he felt unsafe because his house with those pins was featured on the cover art of this song that became obviously as massive as we went on to see it become. In Meet the Grams, he was showing that he had direct leaks in Drake's camp that were feeding him not only information but physical belongings of Drake. On Euphoria, the warning shot, obviously the title being a play on words of the TV show Drake is executive producing that's about high school drama. But the cover art itself featuring the definition of Euphoria, which was Drake's sentiment before this battle even kicked off or before Kendrick ever dropped a diss track. And the two quotes within that definition on the cover art featured a psychologist and a Canadian kickboxer who said they had almost a week to recover from the euphoria of Tuesday's winning series victory. This was almost a week since Euphoria, right? Not Like Us was released on Saturday. Euphoria was released about 5 days before on a Tuesday. Kendrick foreshadowed a lot of this on Euphoria. By the time Meet the Grams rolled around, he was showing he had direct access to leaks in Drake's camp. And by Not Like Us, he's showing an aerial view of Drake's home, implying that Drake is now surrounded and Kendrick is about to take the final blow on Drake's home. The track fittingly starts off with Kendrick saying, "Psst, I see dead people." Now, of course, if you're not here for the reaching, get the F off this video because we will be doing a whole lot of it within the breakdown of these bars. Not only just the bars, but also the little syllables on the intro of the record. Dead people are obviously ghosts, right? On Euphoria, Kendrick said, "Am I battling ghosts or AI? Am I battling your ghostwriters? Am I battling the AI vocals you've used on your diss tracks?" There was rumors that Push Ups was even recorded by a ghostwriter using Drake AI vocals to hide the fact that it was written by someone else. Kendrick was very confused on if he was actually battling Drake within this battle or someone who was trying to channel the spirit of Drake. Here at this point, he's saying all of these diss tracks culminated together and have ended Drake's run at the top and within this battle itself. He's now seeing dead people. But if you look even deeper on Euphoria, after the bar where he said, "Am I battling ghosts or AI?" he said, "I'm feeling like Joel Hale Osment. Funny, he was in a film called AI and my sixth sense telling me to off him." Sixth Sense is another movie that starred Haley Joel Osment, who I believe Kendrick may have been trying to reference on Euphoria, but instead he went with Joel Hale Osment, very similar names. But in Sixth Sense, the movie, Haley Joel Osment can see and communicate with dead people and whispers the exact same words. "I see dead people." Funny enough, about an hour and a half before the actual song was released, Top Dog of Top Dog Entertainment tweeted out saying, "I see dead people." You also probably remember on Euphoria, the last bars of that track, he says, "If you take it there, I'm taking it further. Psst, that's something you don't want to do." That psst is repeated as the first word on Not Like Us, where he says, "Psst, I see dead people." At this point, Drake took it further. Now Kendrick is seeing an unalived individual. It's also a callback to the Game song One Blood, which was kind of a 50 Cent diss track, but more importantly was the first single released after the Game was dropped from 50 Cent's G-Unit record label and was the start to his new beginnings, still an Aftermath artist, but no longer tied to Dr. Dre or 50 Cent, not having any Dr. Dre production on his second album, The Doctor's Advocate. On One Blood, Game says, "Dre, I see dead people." Drake, throughout this whole battle, was comparing himself to 50 Cent. The Game is on the West Coast. Kendrick is making a direct callback to these bars that the Game spat while he was at the pinnacle of his beef with 50 Cent. Then we hear the mustard on the beat drop. And of course, this is significant because this was, I believe, the first time Kendrick and Mustard actually collaborated on a record. Insane to think that they both kind of came into the game around the same time and they have not ever once collaborated on the same track. Ironically, YG's debut album, My Crazy Life, was majority produced by DJ Mustard, but the one track Kendrick featured on was actually not produced by DJ Mustard. It was produced by Terrence Martin, Ty Dolla $ign, and Chords. The fact alone that we were getting a Mustard and Kendrick track was a major moment for hip-hop. Mustard claims to have crafted the beat for Not Like Us very quickly and said he drew inspiration from a fusion of Dr. Dre's production style and Lil Jon's energetic elements. He envisioned what would Dr. Dre do if Lil Jon was in the studio and they were collaborating on a beat. Mustard had been sending Kendrick beats, multiple beats, daily for months. He was trying to get a collab, obviously, and he sent this particular beat only on April 6, 2024. Receiving a late-night response from Kendrick stating, "This is fire." And notably, Mustard first heard the completed track only when it was actually released to the public. He said, "I didn't know Kendrick was gonna gas that beat like that." Shortly after the song was released, Mustard tweeted out saying, "I'll never turn my back on my city, and I'm fully loaded." And we would later see that because we got multiple collabs between Mustard and Kendrick on Kendrick's album GNX shortly after, with TV Off even featuring a sample from the same band that was sampled on Not Like Us. Kendrick starts off the song giving a direct shout out to Mustard, saying, "Mustard on the beat, Debo, any rap guy, he a free throw." Debo being a reference to the Compton actor Tommy Lister Jr., who played the Debo character on the film Friday, and ironically, he's depicted as this insane bully who no one in the community is willing to stand up to. And on the record, 2 records that we got before this one, 616, Kendrick rapped, "Fake bully, I hate bullies, you must be a terrible person." Now Kendrick himself is embodying the persona of the bully, saying any rap guy is a free throw. Now, Debo also plays even more significance when you think about the fact that Debo is actually also the nickname of the NBA basketball player Demar Derozan, who was name dropped in this song later on and featured in the music video. Now, Demar Derozan has a lot of ties to both Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Firstly, at the time of this record's release, he was playing for the Chicago Bulls. Kendrick's parents were actually born in Chicago. Demar Derozan is actually from Kendrick's hometown of Compton, California. He also does have a connection to Drake, however, because he previously played for the Toronto Raptors, the team that resides in Drake's hometown and which Drake is an ambassador of. Demar Derozan is a heavy-hitting free thrower. He spoke on how he earned the nickname Debo, saying, "It all started when I was in the 6th grade and I always used to hoop at PE, physical education, with the 8th graders. I remember I got into it with one of the 8th graders, big dude. We ended up getting into a fight and I beat him up. I was so athletic. I was dunking, doing all this stuff every time, and I always used to beat all the 7th and 8th graders playing. And one of them just fouled me real hard. We got into a scuffle, turned into a fight, beat him up, and my popularity at school just started from there. I've never told this story. I beat him up, big dude, and the whole school was like, oh, he got beat up like he was Debo. Everybody just stuck with it, calling me it after that. So yeah, Debo, any rap guy, he a free throw. Man down, calling amber lamps, tell him breathe, bro. Man down being a military term used when a soldier is injured during combat. Amber lamps, obviously being a different way to pronounce the word ambulance, actually originated from a 2010 YouTube video known as the AC Transit bus fight, where an older white man punches a younger black man during an argument, and after the fight, the injured man says, "Bring the amber lamps," mispronouncing ambulance. Kendrick continues, "Nail a guy to the cross, he walk around like Tizo," obviously implying that he's here lyrically crucifying Drake. Again, he's seen unalived people. And then Tizo is obviously in reference to Tizo Touchdown, who walks around with a bunch of nails in his hair. He's a recent frequent collaborator of Drake, and while it's obviously a reference to the nails in Tizo's hair, it's also a reference to the watch brand Tizo, which is spelled Tissot, and their logo actually features a cross. Now in the next line, Kendrick raps, "What's up with all these jabroni dudes trying to see Compton?" Jabroni is a slang term that means loser, jobber, or someone who gets disrespected. Essentially a nobody. It was popularized by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson during his WWE wrestling promos in the late 90s. Him saying these jabronis are trying to see Compton, he's referencing the fact that on Push-Ups, Drake rapped, "Get more love in the city that you're from." On Tailor Made, he was rapping from the perspective of West Coast legends telling Kendrick he was supposed to be the West Coast savior. Now he might take a loss to a Canadian. And before this beef escalated to the heights that we would later see, Drake actually trolled Kendrick by wearing a Compton College sweater in one of his duck lip selfie Instagram stories. Kendrick here is saying, what's with these losers constantly trying to reference my hometown? It's disrespect. And again, this was the song that drew the line in the sand, united the entire West Coast, and painted Drake as an outsider not only to the West Coast, but to the entire hip-hop culture in general. Kendrick continues, the industry can hate me, F them all and they mama. How many ops you really got? I mean, it's too many options. Now, this is a callback to Euphoria, where Kendrick raps, whoever that's effing with him, F you guys and F the industry too. And unlike that, Kendrick rapped, I crash out like F-rap, diss Melly Mel if I have to. Kendrick is showing you here, he's willing to go up against anyone. Hip-hop's legends, the entire industry, whatever it'll take to get to where he wants to get to. Like he said on 616 in LA, who am I if I don't go to war? Him saying how many ops you really got, I mean, it's too many options. This could be a callback to the fact that Drake tried to paint this entire battle as a massive 20v1. He was extremely distracted, not simply focusing his attention on Kendrick, but instead at all the other rappers who were taking shots at him, right? Rick Ross, The Weeknd, etc. How many ops you really got? There's too many options. I'm finna pass on his body, I'm John Stockton. John Stockton is a basketball player that played on the Utah Jazz in the NBA and holds the record for the most assists in NBA history with 15,806. He played much of his career alongside the power forward Karl Malone, hence Stockton's reputation as a passer. Apparently, he was also known for impregnating a chord A minor at 13 years of age when he was 20, foreshadowing a bit of what Kendrick would discuss later on in this verse. Then he continues, beat your butt and hide the Bible if God watching. Now, we know, right, on Euphoria, on 616 in LA, Kendrick was contemplating his morality behind this battle, right? If God would approve of the actions Kendrick was about to pursue. He rapped, God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? There's opportunity when living with loss. I discover myself when I fall short. At this point in the battle, he warned Drake initially, if you take it there, I'm taking it further. He's now fully contemplated. At this point, it's been taken further, and he's saying, I'm ready to beat you up, and I'll hide the Bible if need be, if God is watching and disapproving. He'll put aside his religious and spiritual beliefs to beat on anyone he feels necessary. And it's funny because on Element, he also rapped, put the Bible down and go eye for an eye on this stuff. Actually, not on this stuff, but for this stuff. He's doing this for the sake of hip-hop. And he continues, sometimes you gotta pop out and show guys. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that upped the score with them. Remember on Taylor Made, when Drake was rapping from Tupac's perspective, saying, you're supposed to be the boogeyman, go do what you do. And pay attention that he called himself the certified boogeyman, not just the boogeyman, right? Remember the line that we'd hear, the famous one, at the end of this verse. Certified. Walk him down, whole time, I know he got some OV ho in him. Remember Euphoria, have you ever walked your enemy down with a poker face? Well, I have, and I failed at both, but I came out straight. And then he said, the very first time I shot me a Drake, he told me to aim it this way. I didn't point down enough. In this case, I'll show you I learned from those mistakes. Kendrick has already walked his enemy down. He failed the first time. He will not fail this time. He's walking him down. Pull on him. Extort stuff. Bully death row on him. 616 in LA. Kendrick details how Drake is getting extorted by his team. Euphoria. Kendrick implies Drake paid $500,000 to an SA case, an S assault case, as a settlement, right? He was getting quote unquote extorted. Here he's saying extort stuff. Bully death row on him. Death Row is obviously in reference to the label that Snoop Dogg now owns, but was once the home of both Snoop Dogg and Tupac, the same two voices Drake used on Taylor Made Freestyle. And Kendrick here is saying he's back to bully him. Like he called himself Debo at the beginning of this song, he is now the bully. Drake was the fake bully, as Kendrick said on 616 in LA. Kendrick right now here is the certified boogeyman, the certified bully. Say Drake, I hear you like him young. Huh, you want to know what's funny? I mean, we don't need to go into too much detail about this line that has become iconic already. You guys know why Kendrick was saying he heard Drake likes him young. Drake actually has a tweet from 2009 saying, if Amazing was a young B, I'd be going to jail because I'm effing amazing. The stories write themselves, my Lobry and Gentle Ground friends. Kendrick continues, you better not ever go to cell block 1. Where is cell block 1? Well, I don't know. I've never been to prison, but according to ChatGPT, it refers to a prison area designed for S offenders or denotes the general population or specific housing units, which can include areas for inmates convicted of particular crimes, such as S-offenders. From my limited knowledge of movies, you can kind of see here that S-offenders do not get treated very well if they make it to prison. And he's basically saying here, Drake should hope he never makes it there. And on Meet the Grams, he said, Drake and Weinstein should get messed up in a cell for the rest of their life. But we're not like us here. He continues, to any girl that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from them. They tell me Chubb's the only one to get your hand-me-downs. Chubbs is a key member of Drake's OVO team. I believe he's also OVO's head of security. Now, I'm not going to get into the vile rumors, the vile allegations made against Drake outside of this song. You guys can go look up Drake private Tinder if you want to hear some disturbing stories about where Chubb's involvement might have been, but I'll just quote direct Drake lyrics because we're just going to focus on the music here. On Chicago Freestyle, Drake rapped, all good, Chubbs will look around, find one that seems like my type, that's my dog, he know what I like, he done found me plenty in my life. Essentially implying that Chubbs looks around wherever they are in the world for some nice women that Drake would like because Chubbs knows his type. Kendrick here is implying that Chubbs is the one that gets Drake's hand-me-downs. And Party at the Party playing with his nose now. That would be PARTYNEXTDOOR, who was arrested in 2017 while attempting to cross the US-Canada border in possession of multiple drugs. Now, I cross that border sometimes. I'll give you guys a little travel tip. I'm talking about when you're flying across the Canadian and US borders. If you ever want to really pass out on a plane, give yourself absolute tranquilizer, drink a beer and order a massive meat lover's breakfast right before you hop on the plane. 3 eggs, hash browns, toast, steak, whatever meat you like, pause, and a massive beer. You will pass out. You don't need any of the drugs that PARTYNEXTDOOR was convicted of traveling across the border with. All you need is a really good breakfast, no matter what time of day it is, and a massive beer. You'll be passed out the second you board that plane. And Bada got a weird case. Why is he around? Bada is one of the OVO artists. He's a close friend of Drake. Drake rapped on Know Yourself saying, I might declare it a holiday as soon as Bada get back on the road. Bada pleaded guilty in 2015 to assaulting a 22-year-old Toronto woman. He had some trafficking charges as well. I'm not going to get into all this. Bada's got a weird case, is what Kendrick is saying. Why do you still keep him around? Certified Lover Boy, Certified PDFs. Obviously a play on words of Drake's album title from 2021, Certified Lover Boy, but again, just because Drake is filing a whole damn defamation lawsuit about this song, notice how Kendrick strategically talks about a bunch of people in Drake's crew, has like 20 S-offender pins on Drake's house, and says Certified PDFs with an S. He's implying that there could be multiple people here that he's referring to as a PDF, not specifically Drake. All he says about Drake is, hide your little sister from him, and I hear you like him young. This is something Drake has referred to in his own lyrics. Literally in 2 diss tracks before this, he said, from Tupac AI's perspective, talk about him liking young girls, that's a gift for me. We're not going to break down why Kendrick is implying that Drake might like him young, why there's certified PDFs, alright? You guys can go do your own research on that nonsense. I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying it's false, I'm just saying I'd much rather talk to you guys about those meat lover breakfasts and beers that I have before I board a Canadian flight. Wop, 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 dot F 'em up, wop, 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 I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bee? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably... This is where you guys are supposed to fill in the blank. Wop is obviously the sound of someone throwing a jab at you, right? And in the music video, Kendrick is actually seen during this part of the song smacking an owl piñata. An owl is the logo of Drake's OVO label. Drake was doing a lot of trolling, right? Fake bully, I hate bullies, you must be a terrible person, you're playing nerdy with Zach Bia and Twitter bots, your little memes are losing steam, they figured you out. This is what he rapped on 616, warning Drake that all the internet trolling, the memes, were getting tired. The public did not care for it. You need a new strategy. Here he's saying, why are you still trolling? Aren't you tired of it? Aren't you tired of using Tupac and Snoop Dogg AI vocals? Again, him simply calling out Drake's actions are what united the West Coast. The reason he took it further with the PDF allegations is only because Drake brought Kendrick's family into this and these allegations he made on Family Matters before Kendrick himself made any insane allegation. A minor is obviously a musical chord. It's actually ironic because the A minor scale actually doesn't use any black keys on a piano, only white ones. A minor is also someone under the age of 18. Trying to strike a chord, a musical chord maybe, and it's probably A minor. Then we get into the chorus, the famous chorus, they not like us, they not like us, they not like us. We already went into Kendrick's own definition of the term not like us, but it's important to note that on this first verse, right before the chorus, Kendrick is commenting on the flaws of multiple people within Drake's crew, PARTYNEXTDOOR, Chubbs, and Baka, and Drake himself. I do think there's a lot of different meanings to the term. As a white Canadian, I don't think I'm the right person to necessarily contextualize what Kendrick could have been implying from a standpoint of where Drake stood within Black American culture or hip-hop culture. But if you watch my Euphoria breakdown, if you simply listen to what Kendrick was saying in this track and the ones that preceded it, at the very least, you can see that Kendrick emphasizes Drake is an actor at his core. The money, power, and fame could not help him go away, could not help him from exposing who he truly is deep down. I think beyond just a tie to a territorial culture, this could also be in reference to Drake's authenticity, right? Drake has constantly cosplayed and attempted to portray himself as rooted in cultures he's not a part of, right? Whether it's in his music, his antics, or his accents. One day he's Jamaican, one day he's Jewish, one day he's from Toronto, one day he's from Atlanta. Every day you get a different Drake. It's always an act. Let's get into the second verse. You think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pac? I think that Oakland show gonna be your last stop. This is obviously in reference to the fact that Drake disrespected Tupac on Tailor Made Freestyle. It's important to note, because the narrative is trying to be concocted, that this is where the West Coast took some holier-than-thou approach, and that they believe this is where Drake took things too far, but Kendrick didn't with the PDF claims. Kendrick only took it further when his family was involved, right? Euphoria came out after Tailor Made, and even then he was saying, if you take it there, I'm taking it further. That's something you don't want to do. He was implying that it hadn't already been taken further at that point. However, Tailor Made was a blatant form of disrespect against the Bay Area legend, Tupac. So he says, you think the Bay is going to let you disrespect Tupac? It's not about me. It's about the culture and the heritage and the community that you have just disrespected by impersonating one of their legends. And he says, I think that Oakland show is going to be your last stop. Tupac was born in New York, but he was raised in Oakland in the late 80s, early 90s. That area holds a very big significance to Tupac's legacy and heritage. To this day, 365 days later, Drake has not done a show in Oakland. I don't hope for any violence, but it might be hard for him to go back to some of these places when he disrespected their legends. Then, just like Drake rapped on Family Matters, you say your brother's Jermaine, but you wanted him to stay out of the light. Kendrick here says, you did Cole foul, I don't know why you're still pretending. Could this be in reference to the fact that Drake brought J. Cole along for the ride on First Person Shooter, gassing him up to believe that they were all on equal playing fields? Could this be the fact that Drake let J. Cole jump into the flames and be the first one to enter this rap battle, dropping 7-minute drill, then backing out, and Drake not saying a single word about J. Cole except for the fact that Cole was losing sleep over the beef, but that couldn't be Drake, and saying that Kendrick wanted J. Cole out of the light. Oh, Drake also said on Push-Ups, I don't care what Cole think, that Kendrick diss was weak AF. Oh, or on Family Matters, I forgot about all these weak bars. You're right about F the Big Three. It's only Big D and there's video proof in reference to his own genitalia, right? Saying that his genitalia is better than J. Cole. So Kendrick here is saying, you did J. Cole absolutely foul. And that's someone who you had on your record, who you did multiple collaborations with in 2023, who you went on a whole tour with in 2023 where you guys were hugging and kissing on stage. And at this point, you've basically completely abandoned him over the fact that he could not sleep well at night entering this battle. It didn't align with his morals. What is the owl? Bird guys and burnt girls. A bird is an insult meaning someone who's basically dumb, right? And Drake's OVO label again is obviously an owl. The audience is not dumb. Shape the stories how you want. Hey Drake, they're not slow. Do we need to go through a list of all the narratives Drake was trying to concoct throughout this beef to paint the picture that Kendrick may have been abusing or cheating on his wife, cooped up in a New York apartment, scared to actually enter this rap battle, begging Tupac's estate to get the tailor-made AI freestyle taken down? Whatever story Drake tried to shape, Kendrick here is saying the audience is not dumb. They're not going to believe your internet trolling. The rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise. Kendrick could take it much further. Again, remember 616 in LA? I did a full breakdown. You guys can check it out on the page. Extremely cryptic in its messaging and its implication that there were deep leaks in Drake's camp that Kendrick could have revealed to the world. If this battle kept going on, I'm very curious how deep it actually would have went. Ain't that something? B-Rad stands for B, and you're Malibu's most wanted. Here he's referencing the movie Malibu's Most Wanted, comparing Drake to the main character Brad Gluckman, who attempts to emulate black culture by becoming a rapper under the name B-Rad. He's saying the B in B-Rad stands for the B word, B-I-T-C-H, a female dog. Again, questioning Drake's authenticity to the culture, but also referencing the fact that Malibu being a city in California and Drake's being Malibu's most wanted. Again, that Oakland show might be your last stop, right? You can't disrespect the West Coast and expect to be able to go back to the West Coast. Ain't no law, boy, you ball boy. Fetch Gatorade or something. Basically, Drake is not laying down the law. He is not the one calling the shots. Instead, he's the one fetching Gatorade for the main players on the team. Since 2009, I had this beat jumping. You guys will get a wedgie be flipped over your boxers. Kendrick Lamar, in 2009, ironically had a song where he rapped, "She listening to Drake, and all I can say is, damn, these guys that much better than me?" Here he's saying in 2024, it's been since 2009 that he has been going on this tear, that he has been the superior artist, and that the other guys will get a wedgie. Again, he's Debo. He's the bully. What OVO for? The other, I don't know if I could say this on YouTube, V option? You guys can go look these lyrics up on your own. What does OVO stand for, basically? Guys better straighten their posture got famous all up in Compton. Remember, on push-ups, Drake was talking about drop and give me 50. Here, Kendrick is saying, you better straighten up. Also, the other V option could imply Drake's sexuality, possibly being homosexual, right? And then he's saying they better straighten up. They better straighten their posture. That's for you guys to determine. Might write this for the doctorate. Tell the pop star quit hiding. F a caption, want action. No accident. I'm hands-on. He F around, get polished. This is in reference, well, at least on push-ups, Drake said, Drizzy Chippendale probably got your B Chanel. I just got him done. Don't make me have to chip and nail. It's in reference to the criticism Drake has had for being an OV-ho who has been painting his nails thanks to the inspiration he got from Lil Yachty to do so. On Euphoria, Kendrick rapped, Yachty can't give you no swag either. And here he's saying, I am hands-on, he F around and get polished. A double entendre with Kendrick being hands-on and obviously nail polish being something you put on your hands. On Family Matters, Drake also rapped, I'm going on vacation now, hope next time y'all plan it right. Here he's saying, tell the pop star to quit hiding. He's here, he's hands-on. F'd on Wayne's girl while he was in jail, that's conniving, then get his face tatted like a bee apologizing in reference to Tammy Torres. Drake had slept with Lil Wayne's girlfriend, Tammy Torres, actually before Lil Wayne had ever actually dated her. He's rapped about this on 6 Foot 7 Foot and his song Had a Hate on 6 Foot 7 Foot, saying, had my heart broken by this woman named Tammy, but OV-Ho's gonna be OV-Ho, so I could not blame Tammy. That's a great song. I love that song. But he did find out that Drake had previously slept with this woman when Wayne was in jail, and he actually wrote about it in his journals from jail, saying, I woke up still feeling effed out about the effed up day I had. Hell is what it was. I'm used to arguing with my girl daily, but finding out that she effed Drake was the absolute worst thing I could have found out. As a man, honestly, that hurt. And not because it was Drake, it could have been any man, and it would have hurt the same. She said it happened way before we got together, but she just never told me. When Jersey came to see me, he was like, yeah, it's true. Don't F with her because I F'd with her. Damn. This is the type of stuff a man never wants to find out while he's locked up. Or maybe so, because God only knows what I would have done if I wasn't locked up right now. As soon as I found out, I told them to just lock me in, and I've been basically by myself in myself for the last couple of days. As a man, I'll admit it. That stuff really effed me up. And then, of course, Drake went on to get a tattoo of Lil Wayne on his arm. Remember on Like That, Kendrick said, I'm snatching chains and burning tattoos. This was a tattoo that Kendrick is implying Drake should probably burn off himself. And on a side note, it's so funny to see like the aftermath of some of these rappers' reactions to this record, the ones who were specifically name dropped in the record. Baka saying that he wanted to concoct a response to Kendrick when the guy hasn't released a song in probably the last 8 years. Lil Wayne actually singing the song while he was performing his Drake collaboration, The Motto, saying they not like us, they not like us. And then months later saying that he never even knew that this was a diss song to begin with. How do you not know that? It's a diss song against the biggest artist you ever signed in your career. And it's a song that directly mentions you by name. I don't know. But Kendrick continues, I'm glad D-Rose came home. Y'all didn't deserve him neither. From Alondra down to Central, people better not speak on Serena. D-Rose is obviously in reference to our favorite bully, Debo, right? Demar Derozan, who is from Compton, used to, again, play on the Toronto Raptors. Demar is back home now playing on the Sacramento Kings in California. He's back home. Toronto did not deserve him. Alondra Boulevard and Central Avenue are both streets which intersect in Compton next to a park where both Serena Williams and her sister Venus used to play tennis when they were younger. Kendrick here is saying no one in the area will be vulnerable to disrespect on my watch. Drake has been publicly known to not only date Serena Williams, but also rap about her husband, her current husband, in his 2022 song Middle of the Ocean, where he rapped, sidebar, Serena, your husband's a groupie. He claims we don't got a problem, but no, boo. It is like you coming for sushi. We might pop up on him at will like Suzuki. People better not speak on Serena, according to Kendrick. And she actually crypt walked on the Super Bowl stage as Kendrick performed this song later in 2025. A nice little tour d'événement. I'm trying to practice my French here. I don't know if that makes any sense, but a turn of events is what I tried to say. And your homeboy needs subpoena. That predator move in flux. That name got to be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. Who is the homeboy here? I'm not necessarily sure, but, on Meet the Grams, he said the embassy is about to get raided too. It's only a matter of time. On the first verse, he's calling out everyone from Baka to Chubbs to Party. On the cover art alone, there's 12 S offender pins on Drake's house, implying there's a lot of homeboys here that might need a little subpoena, that might need to, be summoned to court. The predators move in flocks. And remember, Drake's logo is an owl, right? A couple bars before, he said, what is the owl? Bird guys. Birds move in flocks, same way the predators do. And this is where we get into my absolute favorite part in terms of just an overall sound perspective of the entire song, where he goes, I lean on you guys like another line of walk. Yeah, it's all up to me, and I'm going to send it up to Pac. Obviously in reference to Tupac's album title, All Eyes on Me. And again, calling back to Tailor Made Freestyle, where Drake was rapping from Tupac's perspective, saying that the West Coast needs you right now. The eyes are all on you to save hip-hop. All eyes are on me, I'm going to send him up to Pac. Put the wrong label on me, I'm going to get him dropped. Carrying a double meaning because obviously, like with a label, an artist can get dropped. But Kendrick here is saying, you put the wrong label on me, you label me as something that I am not, I'm going to get you dropped, right? Obviously on Family Matters, Drake was painting Kendrick out to be a terrible person. Kendrick here is saying, your false narratives, you keep painting them, you're getting dropped. Sweet chin music and I won't pass the aux. Like before where he referenced the WWE slang jabronis, here he's referencing the signature move from Shawn Michaels, sweet chin music. I don't keep up with WWE, but apparently Shawn Michaels' greatest opponent was the Canadian Bret Hart. Remember, on the Euphoria album artwork, he also quotes a Canadian kickboxer to say they had less than a week to recover from Tuesday's series-winning victory. This also being a double entendre because Kendrick now is saying he's out here whooping feet, giving the Canadian clown sweet chin music, and he is not passing the aux cord. If you guys are babies still, you probably don't remember the aux cord because everyone uses, Bluetooth or whatever nowadays. But an aux cord essentially is what you put in to a car from back in the day to play music. And, if you're a little stingy with the music, you don't pass the aux cord. You continue letting it play. Kendrick here is saying he's delivering that sweet chin music, he's whooping feet, and he's not passing the aux. He's not letting up. How many stocks do I really have in stock? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. Kendrick had already delivered us 5 diss tracks at this point, right? And this was at a pivotal point where we didn't know this would be the last thing we heard from Kendrick from a diss track perspective, right? He'd given us Not Like Us, Meet the Grams, 616, Euphoria, and Like That. That's 5 of them. He claimed he had 5 more left in the tuck, and I most definitely believe him. Think about the pace, how quickly he was releasing these records back to back, how thematically and sonically different they were, each one of them having a different theme. I think if Drake didn't wave the white flag on the Hard Part 6, he would have easily kept going, and he had a lot more in stock here. Devil is a lie, he is 69, God. The devil is a lie means basically evil or negativity is deceptive or untrue. It's a way of rejecting lies, temptation, or bad influences. Here, he is saying Drake, being the devil, is a lie, he is evil, and he is the 69 God, because Drake obviously calls himself the 6th God, right? And he says, Freaky A guys need to stay their butt inside. Freaky A N-word Kendrick would obviously later use as the acronym FAN, F-A-N, right? Freaky A-S-S N-word. Those FANs need to stay their butt inside, is what Kendrick is saying, right? Because, again, look at the cover art, right? All the S offender pins. He's saying they need to be placed on neighborhood watch. Stay inside. Those predators are moving in flocks. Keep your little sister away from them. Run away and hide. Roll their butt up like a fresh pack of za. That is a double entendre referencing a blunt and some good green inside that blunt. And he's saying he's rolling Drake up the same way you would do with the za. City is back up. It's a must. We outside. Here he is uplifting not just the culture, but the entirety of the West Coast, right? And we would see with this victory lap exactly what he would do. I believe specifically with these set of bars, right? Everything from All Eyes on Me and I'ma Send It Up to Pac, all the way to the end where he raps, City is back up, it's a must, we outside. Here he is single-handedly uniting his people. Rolling up the devil, putting him in the blunt. They need to stay their butt inside. Kendrick is delivering the sweet chin music. He has way more in stock, ready to go. And this is basically just him basking in the glory of his victory, right? And making it a moment for his city, not just him. And again, he gets into the chorus, they not like us, right? Right after he says, the city is back up, it's a must that we're outside. Then we get into possibly the most interesting verse of the entire record. The famous third verse where he compares the slave trade within Atlanta to the way that Drake steals from Atlanta hip-hop artists in 2024. Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still doubled down calling us some slaves. This is in reference to Drake trying to paint Kendrick like an actor himself, saying he's just acting like an activist. It's make-believe, don't go back to your hood, plant no money trees. The worst bar he possibly rapped in this entire battle was you're always rapping like you're trying to get the slaves freed. Essentially saying, right, Kendrick makes a lot of music to break generational cycles of oppression. Think about songs like All Right. Think about songs even like The Art of Peer Pressure, right? Where he's rapping about being a part of a robbery with his friends and committing crimes he probably wouldn't have been a part of if it hadn't been for the people around him. And they probably wouldn't have committed those crimes if there was more opportunity in the lower income neighborhoods that they grew up in. Think about Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, right? These songs don't tell stories of slavery, but they do tell the story of a good kid trying to escape a mad city, but also these cycles that Kendrick's generation and the generations before him had to go through, and the violence that they may have had to resort to from the struggles they experienced, right? Sometimes there's only certain ways to get out of a bad situation financially, and Kendrick is always trying to propose the more positive approach. That is probably what Drake is referencing when he says you're trying to get the slaves freed, or always rapping like you're trying to get the slaves freed, right? But you don't go back to your hood and plant money trees. Essentially, like, you're always trying to break these generational cycles, but you don't actually do anything to go back to uplift the communities that you are attempting to influence positively in your music. But obviously an extremely distasteful bar, because not only has Kendrick contributed a lot financially to his neighborhood, to his hometown, not just been a positive role model, but financially contributed a lot, building educational programs, literally with the pop-up concert alone, donating proceeds to local LA businesses. He's definitely gone back and planted money trees, but more than that, music is an extremely powerful tool to help uplift on its own, right? Think about how many thousands, if not millions of individuals have been inspired to make change in their own lives thanks to Kendrick's music. Think about the families he's uplifted, not just through his music, but the ones that he's directly connected to within his neighborhood, right? By rapping something like that, Drake is showing he's obviously extremely detached from the history and the struggles of black people within America, where they started at when they were trying to fight for their rights within the very country that Drake is now profiting so much from. Something he didn't directly experience growing up as a biracial individual within Canada. So yeah, once upon a time, we were all in chains. Homie still doubled down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the mecca, building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a second, let me put y'all on game. The settlers was using townfolk to make them richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. Now, what he's saying here essentially is that Atlanta became a key hub in the domestic slave trade due to its central location, the growing railroads, and the economy that was built on cotton. It connected a lot of major southern cities, making it a key point for transporting and selling enslaved people across the South before the Civil War. The settlers were using townfolk to make them richer, referring to how early white settlers exploited enslaved black people, aka the townfolk, for labor, especially in farming, building infrastructure, and domestic work, to obviously generate wealth for themselves. Slavery was an economic engine. It was making the white settlers rich by forcing black people to work without pay. And he flips that to say Drake is taking a very similar approach to how he collaborates with Atlanta artists in 2024. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Let me break it down for you. This the real person challenge. You called Future when you didn't see the club. Lil Baby helped you get your lingo up. 21 gave you false street cred. Thought it'd make you feel like you're a slime in your head. Quavo said you could be from Northside. 2 Chainz said you're good, but he lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. You're not a colleague. You are an effing colonizer. Think about Drake's actions alone in this beef, right? Flaunting the Pharrell chains that he bought, the Tupac ring that he bought, using hip-hop legends' vocals without their permission, their voice without their permission, rapping insensitive bars about Kendrick, rapping like he's trying to get the slaves freed, essentially saying that Drake appropriates black culture without fully understanding the experiences and the struggles of being black. He's not a friend to this culture, right? And notice how he name-dropped a bunch of Atlanta artists that Drake has had collaborations with. Future, Lil Baby, 21, Young Thug, Quavo, 2 Chainz. He's had records with each of these individuals. With 2 Chainz, he had a song called No Lie. 2 Chainz had a record label called True Religion. 2 Chainz say you're good, but he lied. No truth. For collaborating with 21 Savage, Drake was never talking about knife talk. 21 gave you false street cred. Young Thug made you feel like you're a slime in your head. Drake was never using the word slime before collaborating with Young Thug. In the future, Drake made some of his biggest trap bangers or club bangers through his collaborations with Future or the producers that Future introduced Drake to. Drake was not collaborating with the Southsides and the Metro Boomins before his collab tape with Future, What a Time to Be Alive. All of these Atlanta artists helped power Drake up, give him the ability to incorporate a lot of sounds into his music that he did not have before collaborating with them. Think about Nothing Was the Same era Drake versus 2022 era Drake, where he's talking about knife talk, flaming you out, and major distribution. By associating with these rappers, Drake felt empowered to embody the struggles that they may have faced in their early years within their own neighborhoods, to rap the stories that they actually faced, and essentially adopt not just their lingo, fashion choices, flows, or sound, but their overall persona, and all in the name of appealing to a wider musical audience while not necessarily giving back or understanding the culture that all of these Atlanta artists embody. He's not a friend to this culture. He's not a colleague of the culture. He's a colonizer. He colonizes their sound and commodifies it within his own music, within his own persona. I've always said, I love Drake and Future music together, but Drake needed Future a lot more than Future needed Drake. Drake, again, could not see the club before he teamed up with Future. He was not making these trap bangers before What a Time to Be Alive. Kendrick summed it up perfectly with this entire verse. And again, tying it back into the historical context of settlers using slaves to make themselves richer by building up the infrastructure within Atlanta, comparing that to Drake's actions in 2024 with Atlanta artists, ties in the entire fact that Kendrick understands the history of America. Kendrick is rooted in that heritage, in that history. These are the stories of the ancestors of the people that later became pillars within the culture. The very culture that Drake benefited massively from, but might not completely understand or be truly a part of. He concludes this bar, again, just tying everything in full circle, because this song came out just one day after Family Matters, and to prove to the world that this was not just some song that he had tucked in the stash for months or years waiting to drop on Drake, he references Family Matters directly, rapping, "The family matter and the truth of the matter, it was God's plan to show you the liar." 2 Drake songs referenced in these 2 bars, saying essentially that it's been God's plan all along to show you who the master manipulator of this entire thing truly is. And the family matter also being in reference to the fact that he's talking about Black America's ancestry within this entire verse, right? The Atlanta slave trade. He's saying the family matter. And the truth of the matter was God's plan to show you the liar. Drake has been the liar the entire time. The colonizer, the guy who's not truly from this culture, but steals so much from it. The family matters. The heritage matters. The cultural context matters. And ultimately, anyone who puts on this facade, who acts like they're part of this, but is truly, quote unquote, not like us, they will be eventually, inevitably exposed. God's plan all along. And then we get tons of quotables, right? I mean, Kendrick had to conclude this song making sure Drake heard this possibly for the rest of his life, right? He a fan. Freaky butt guy, he is 69 God. Hey, run for your life. Remember, keep them on neighborhood watch. Keep them in the house. Keep your little sister away from them. Hey, run for your life. Let me hear you say, OV ho, step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? Then step this way, step that way. On Tootsie Slide, Drake sang, right foot up, left foot slide, left foot up, right foot slide. Kendrick said, you cannot Tootsie Slide your way out of this one. And the final blow to the OV ho's Canadian coffin was step this way, step that way, making a certified global dance hit that had the world chanting OV-ho for the last 365 days and probably the next 365 years, exposing Drake for the culturally cosplaying Canadian actor that Kendrick believes he has been this entire time, uplifting his community by emphasizing that he has the ball at this point. He's not passing the aux. All eyes are on him, and he will not let up. And it's a must that his city is outside. That they are proud of their heritage, they are proud of where they came from, they are proud to be from the West Coast, and they're united in their heritage, in their culture, in their legends like Tupac, and it's now Kendrick who will take what a legend like Pac did to the next level. The flows, the references, and the production all being an ode to his city, bringing his city along for this victory lap, along for the ride, and sure enough, that is exactly what he did, right? On Juneteenth, we saw Kendrick outside, I believe for the first time since his beef kicked off. I know he did do a speech at the Compton College graduation ceremony in June as well. But the first time he performed this record, the first time he performed since this beef ensued, was at his pop-out concert, where he brought out a ton of LA talent, sets from DJ Head, DJ Mustard, performances from everyone from Black Hippie to Tyler the Creator, Roddy Ricch, Steve Lacey, YG. I could go on. The list goes on forever. Donating tons of the proceeds to a bunch of local LA businesses. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Having the most watched musical event on Amazon Prime and on Twitch of all time. Having the quickest song to hit 1 billion streams as a hip-hop song on Spotify of all time. A record that is still in the top 25 of the Billboard Hot 100 chart 365 days after its release. It has been number one on that chart for multiple weeks, as recently as 2 months ago in February of 2025, over 6 months after its initial release date, breaking the record for the highest single day streams on Spotify for a hip-hop record of all time, a record that ironically was previously held by Drake. A music video which I'm not sure the records it broke, but I'm sure it broke tons of them on YouTube, featured multiple iconic key locations from his hometown of Compton, like the Compton Courthouse and Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. That's where the video actually opens. Tam's Burgers, a local restaurant within Compton. Nickerson Gardens housing projects, which featured Kendrick Lamar alongside a bunch of Top Dog Entertainment artists. This is where Kendrick initially had his first rap battles. There's literally videos on YouTube of Kendrick rap battling in their Nickersons, and this is something Kendrick references on his song Whacked Out Murals, talking about ducking strays when I rap battled in the Nickersons. It also features Kendrick on Rosecrans Avenue, driving with DJ Mustard. And on a side note, think about how much Kendrick and DJ Mustard have been seen together since this song came out, right? We never saw them together in 15 years. And Not Like Us happens, they've been inseparable, right? He was at the pop-out show, opened up for Kendrick. He was on the Super Bowl stage with Kendrick. He's now opening for the GNX tour with Kendrick and SZA. He was in the Not Like Us music video. He was at the Grammys accepting the first 3 awards that Not Like Us won. Oh, hey, I forgot about that too, right? Kendrick just opened his mouth. Someone go hand him a Grammy right now? No. How about we hand him 5, right? Kendrick, Not Like Us, was the first, obviously, diss record to ever win a Grammy award. But Kendrick also broke the record for being the first hip-hop artist to win Song of the Year at the Grammys for a hip-hop song. Do you know how monumental that is? In the 50 years that hip-hop has been around, it has never won Song of the Year at the Grammy Awards. The only time that it's won Record of the Year, I believe, is with Childish Gambino's This Is America. Kendrick won both of those awards in a single night, along with 3 other awards, all for a diss song that united his city. Kendrick raps, how many stocks do I really have in stock? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. He's seen in the music video doing hopscotch, a children's game, with numbers 1 through 10 plastered on the hopscotch. He's also hitting an owl piñata, another childhood game, in the music video. And by the time 2025 rolled around, the song got so massive that Drake had to concoct a defamation lawsuit about the song, the music video, and the cover art against his record label and Kendrick's record label, UMG, for publishing and promoting the song. And in reference to that, when Kendrick every single night does that song, he opens up with a little skit of him in a deposition room where someone is questioning him about what he was trying to imply with the lyrics of that song. And the guy asks, does the following words ring a bell? Drop, drop, drop.
Bro, I don't keep up with dates, man. I don't know, man. I'm in the air.
Okay, does this ring a bell? Drop, 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 drop.
I could go on about how this song has changed the course of hip-hop, how it's broken more records than you can count on 17 different people's fingers. The victory lap it has led Kendrick to go on, that again, he's brought his city along for the ride the entire time. You guys have probably seen this on countless different videos. So instead, I want to take a quick moment to actually thank all of you guys, because this song has not just changed hip-hop, it also changed my life. It also changed the Rapaholics channel. The first video I ever posted on this channel that ever got any bit of decent viewership was actually right as Kendrick released his verse on Like That, where I said Drake would be making a terrible mistake, having everything to lose and nothing to gain by partaking in this beef, because Kendrick not only knows how to create crazy lyrical think pieces, but he also knows how to play Drake's game in creating massive global hits that unite the culture. And with him doing so, and then of course creating these massive moments after this song and after this beef, I've been able to document this whole thing with you guys for the last 365 days, and it's really been the best 365 days of my life. Not just because we get to experience all these monumental, impactful milestones within hip-hop, but also because I get to actually document this stuff for you guys and discuss this stuff with you. The first video that ever got decent viewership was the one where I was commenting on Kendrick's verse on Like That. The one that ever got over 200,000 views was the one where I broke down his Not Like Us music video. And that was actually the video that made me realize, okay, I need to take the risk of quitting my job and going all in on this, going all in on what I love to do. There's nothing I love more than to sit here and break down these moments, break down the music, break down the bars with you guys. And it's because of you that you showed me if you're passionate enough about something, you have to go all in on your dream. I've said this before on prior videos. Making your dreams come true is literally just a combination of your passion mixed with extreme hard work. And I mean, Kendrick has shown us this in the last 365 days, right? Obviously throughout his entire career, but he's been on a mission. He said this in his interview before the Super Bowl, that in 2023, hip-hop, in terms of overall discussion, had kind of taken a little bit of a back seat within the industry. And people were prioritizing collaboration over competition, over the drive to be the best. Kendrick set out on a calculated plan to bring back that essence of competitive spirit within hip-hop. And he did so with immense creativity. Whether it was the 5 diss tracks that we got, which each of them sequentially and thematically progressed as this cohesive narrative or story, whether it was the GNX album we saw after, where he put a bunch of local artists from his city on to the most West Coast sounding project we've ever got from him, taking it back to the roots, taking it back to what he loved as a kid, hard-hitting beats and great raps, bringing back the love that people had for full-fledged cohesive projects, bringing straight bar-focused raps back to the top of the charts and on stages we've never seen them on before. Think about the Super Bowl. Think about the storytelling we saw there. Think about the storytelling in all the music videos that we saw for GNX or for Not Like Us. Think about the visuals and the skits we're seeing on this GNX tour. I can't wait to watch a full-fledged recording of the GNX tour and break it down for you guys, because I know those skits definitely line up in some sort of narrative. And think about all the byproducts of this beef, if that's a word, right? We saw that little resurgence in competition with Joey Badass against the entire West Coast for a little bit in early 2025. We even saw Quavo and Chris Brown go back and forth throughout this entire debacle. We're seeing new superstars emerge from Kendrick's camp, TDE, Doechii, Ray Vaughn, also dropping amazing cohesive bodies of work. I highly suggest you check out both of their latest projects. He's getting brand new West Coast artists, record deals with major labels like AZ Chike, signing to Warner Brothers. We're seeing a massive resurgence in West Coast music. Everyone from Kendrick himself to even artists like Tyler, the Creator, on the complete opposite end of the artistic spectrum. Look at the floodgates that were opened up thanks to this beef, thanks to this one record. If you don't think this song changed the game, something is wrong with your brain. But what a year it's been. I can't wait to document everything we see in the future, not just from Kendrick himself, but from hip-hop as a whole. Where does Kendrick take it next? Where does Drake take it next? What would have happened if Not Like Us was ever released and we just got the dark night of Family Matters and Meet the Grams and it all ended there? Kendrick really brought the light back with this song. And I had said it before, not to get on Labry's case too much in this video, but I think the biggest mistake he made throughout this entire battle was that every diss track he released had an extremely dark undertone to it, whether it was the production, the subject matter, the tone in his voice. He never sounded victorious. He never sounded like he was fighting for something greater than himself. And that was the beauty of Not Like Us, right? At its core, it was meant to embody the competitive spirit and cultural heritage that has been missing from the subject matter within mainstream hip-hop for a very long time. Raising the bar with crazier bars. But let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.